Welcome to About the Facts podcast with Brittany and Mike, a podcast designed to educate, navigate, and empower you to become an advocate for your family, yourself, and your community. We uncover the facts and dive into the issues that prevent people like you and me from thriving. You'll gain the tools and the insights to ask the right questions, challenge the system, and stand up for what's right. Get ready to be informed, inspired, and empowered, because the power to advocate starts with you. Let's get to it.
It's an amazing day, and welcome to About the Facts podcast. I'm your host, Mike Shelton.
And I am Brittany Grant. We are so excited to have you today. If you are just tuning in, About the Facts podcast is an interview-based podcast where we bring in change agent, thought leaders, and politicians to talk about their stances and what they would like to see in the community. So we're excited that we are in this series right now.
Absolutely. We've been in a political series. We've had an amazing time introducing the community, and we want to thank our subscribers for subscribing. Just a shameless plug. Where do you get subscribed? Where can you subscribe?
You can find us on all social media platforms. We're also on YouTube, podcast, and Spotify. So make sure you subscribe there. You listen. You can go back and hear all of our candidates.
That's right. Please share our podcast, and we've been in an amazing podcast lately. Important to the community, important for people to hear. We are encouraging people to get out to vote on February 11th so often, and there's a lot of people that are disengaged, just disenchanted with politics right now. And what we're trying to encourage them to do is get re-engage, and these smaller elections is where it matters. Absolutely. Get engaged on these smaller elections. We got several candidates, and if you go back and look at our past shows, you'll see that we've talked to the Ward 7 candidate for Oklahoma City for Oklahoma City. Ward 7. And who have we talked to?
We've talked to Masood Haq, Kamal Pennington, Andrea Holman,
and John
Pettis Jr.
That's right. And we've also had the opportunity to talk to our county commissioner candidates, which are
Anastasia Pittman,
Jed Green, Sarah Banna, and Jason Lowe. They've all come on the show to share their perspective. You can hear their position. And why we love this show is that it's not just a podcast or a debate that you would go to and you get 2 minutes to open, 2 minutes to close, 2 minutes to answer your question, and you just don't really get to know the candidates. We wanted to create a platform where you really get the facts about these candidates, as well as the things that are happening in the community. But more importantly, we wanted you to be able to just hear more in depth about the candidates so you can make an informed choice.
Absolutely. So this series is going to feature our Oklahoma City Public School Board Chair. So we've got 3 candidates that are running.
We've got 3 candidates that are running.
Yes.
And we got one that's coming in the door. It's actually our Oklahoma City School Board Chair, Paula Lewis. We're so glad to have you. Now I'm going to tell you rang the doorbell a little early, so I'm going to.
You rang the doorbell.
Our listeners don't know that. Running for no, don't go back. Don't go back. You have 2 other candidates. It's a non-political, nonpartisan race. Very political, but nonpartisan race. You got Mia Spriggs that's running. You got Jan Barrett that's running. You've been in the seat for 8 years, and this is your 3rd election, and you are a seasoned politician, no doubt about it. I know you probably don't count yourself as a seasoned politician, but we're glad to have you, and welcome to About the Facts podcast. You want to just open up with...
Yeah, so we really just want to know, just tell our listeners and subscribers just who you are and why you have continued to run for this seat and are passionate about it.
Yes, so seasoned politician by accident, but I'll give you that. But I've actually been on the board 9 years, and I started as District 4. I ran unopposed, and I never thought about being on the school board. Honestly, didn't know probably there was a school board, truthfully. But in Heritage Hills, when I lived over in the Mesta Park area, I bicycle rode with a lady who wanted to run for school board, Laura Masnot, and I helped on my first campaign with hers.
Okay.
And Rain, my now 13-year-old, I carried him on my back while we were knocking doors. That's how little he was. And the more I heard what she was doing, I said, well, if you ever decide not to run, I think I might want to. And one day she decided not to run, and I put my name in, and I got lucky and ran unopposed. And then I got into the fight. I was like, whoa. Yeah, so I was in. And then it just became clear that we were not addressing issues that were going to move our needle forward for kids. And I did at the time, had my oldest son, who's now 23, in the district. And I'd moved into the district to go to Wilson Arts Integration School specifically, because then the science said that if your kid had focus issues, you needed to go to an art school. The science hadn't caught up. We didn't realize that PTSD was masking as ADHD. And as the science caught up, by the time I was on the board, it was very clear to me that teachers were under attack. Teachers don't want to teach. They're not teaching. These kids can't learn because teachers won't teach. But the science was there saying, it's not the teachers. Our kids can't access their learning brains. And that really fueled my passion. And so when I first ran, it was mental health, bringing that to the awareness so that we could really support our staff and students. Improving transparency, because the board at the time really wasn't talking open about things. We didn't have a lot of budget on the website. You had to go to the building meeting to see it. There was no live streams. And then superintendent stability. And that's how I got started. And honestly, that was it. And then the second time came around, the board was kind of still a little bit bumpy and rocky. And it just felt like it was the right thing to do to run again. And I really thought it was my last term. But here I am.
Here we
Here you are.
Here I am.
Something about that politics that just kind of keeps dragging you in. I'm just telling you. Well, let me just tell you, I need to just make sure that all the listening audience, our subscribers, know that I do sit on the Oklahoma City School Board, and we work together on a daily, weekly, monthly basis on school board issues. And so I just want to make sure that that's clear. It's been an honor to work with you, and I want to thank you for the things that I know that you've done, and working on trying to really work to bring focus on the school board that's never been there for a while. So I just want to thank you for that. So why don't you, because I know a lot of people ask you about school board, because I came from the House of Representatives and we got used to kicking in doors at the House of Representatives. It's not like that with the Oklahoma City School Board.
It's not.
So why don't you talk about the Oklahoma City School Board Chair position and what its role?
So the chair position began in early 2000s is when it first came to be. And it was designed to have an at-large. So we're the only one in the state. It's based on your enrollment. So Tulsa could have an at-large chair. They've opted to continue to elect the chair amongst the elected board members. Mm-hmm. There's not a significant amount of difference, honestly, other than on our board policy. The chair and the superintendent set the agenda, meaning that the Superintendent Polk or myself are the only ones who could put it on or pull it off. Mm-hmm. However, during my first term as chair, I passed a policy, put a policy forward and it passed, that 4 board members can overrule me, because I thought that was too much power. Like, I need to have other board members have power. So 4 board members at any time can overrule me and get something on the agenda at that point. So that's one thing we do. And then if the board takes action, whether it's pro or against, the policy says I would be the one to speak for the board. And an easy way to think about that is when we sell a bond, my name is on all the bank papers. But it's not because as the person, I'm speaking for the board with my signature. Mm-hmm. So that's one of them. And then really and truly, it just is more of a relational thing, pulled into a lot of different, like I go to our foundation meeting. I'm a kind of an ad hoc member. I'm not a voting member, but I go to the OKC Foundation meetings and the compact meetings. And really, that's the piece. And then trying to keep 7 board members, build a relationship with them. They change every year, and figuring out what they want, where you can plug them in. And we are in a new process right now called Student Outcome Focused Governance. And so that's the big push at the moment.
So I need you to do me a favor. Mm-hmm. I need you to move in just a little to your right. And the only reason is I don't want any of your supporters to say, "Oh, I had your arm cut off the whole."
I still got an arm.
Okay.
So just why don't you do me a favor by just explaining the who's going to be eligible to vote for the school board chair?
Yeah, I've done that about 60 times today, honestly. So the at-large chair, people in Spencer will vote, up to Quail Creek, down to U.S. Grant, Southeast, the core area, even the ones that have their own city charter. So the village still votes for our district because we provide the schools in that system. Nichols Hill still votes. A lot of times Nichols Hill will say, we don't vote because we're not Oklahoma City. Well, the schools are Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's citywide. It's an at-large seat.
Awesome. So today you said you've been knocking doors
I have
before
been.
you got here. Tell us some of the challenges that you're hearing while you're knocking.
50% of the time is, what am I going to do about Superintendent Walters? And I say that we have to rely on our House and our Senate at the state level to address that. But we did receive a praise from the State Department the other day. It came out of the meeting that said that OKCPS, there's no other district in the state making faster progress for outcomes and moving schools off the F list in Oklahoma City Public Schools. So I'll own the compliment. Like, I'll take that.
She'll take
Yeah,
that.
I'll take that.
That's in board policy. You
Yeah.
take the compliment.
Yeah,
right?
I'll take that. I'll take it. That's good for us. That's good stuff right there. And then, honestly, just why do I pay a lot of taxes? I don't, because I've been in the northern part, Nichols Hills, honestly. Why do I have to pay taxes if I send my kids to private schools? That's just part of core services, and that's city and state law. Determine that. And try to, remind people of it. Publicly educated. A community that's educated is a more thriving community. That's one big one. But really, those are the big two things that I've been getting asked quite a bit. The bond, we did raise the levy in the bond. And so I think people felt that. And we know that inflation's happened. And we're not coming quite down off of it since the pandemic.
So some of those challenges. So what are you hearing as far as challenges that are hitting Oklahoma City's schools? And what are some of the victories? So as you are the current chair, talk about some of our wins. Like, we talk about our challenges all the time, but give us some wins.
So a win is that when we hired Superintendent Polk, we did continue stability in the superintendent's seat. She had been with the district for 5 years, but there's a lot of people that have been with the district 5 years. But during that 5 years, she was over elementary schools, and she took our elementary schools from 19 Fs to 2 Fs in 5 years. And so that's a win. I mean, that's a huge win for us. There's always going to be Fs too, like across the state, because it's a bell curve, and so we bump people back down, as you move around. But that's a big win, because what that means is that our kids are getting access in 17 schools. They're getting more access to a quality seat than they were 5 years ago. So that's a huge win for us. Embrace OKC is mental health and addresses the mental wellness and health of students and staff. We had that on board before the pandemic, thank goodness, and it's now a model for the state that has come down. So that's a big win. We have stopped the decline of the district. Now, I'll say that. I mean, it's probably about 250 less than it was last year, but we're still about 500 higher than what projections were we were going to be. So that's a big one. That means that we are becoming more of a choice for our community.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, of course, November election has really created apathy amongst people. A lot of people are choosing to turn off their TV. They don't want to vote. They're upset. There's winners and losers in this business. What would you tell those voters that are deciding, I'm not voting in anything anymore? How do you get them to this very important election?
Well, I was listening to, I think I was at maybe the MLK service at St. John's, and they mentioned that 50%, it's hard to swallow that 50% of our United States voted for hate. And I walked away and thought, but that means 50% voted against it. And even in this race, I need 50% plus one vote. And so in the big scheme, it's horrible. It's horrific what we're getting ready to go through. But I just have to, and I talked to voters about that, is that apathy is what got us here. 10 million less people voted because they were apathetic. They decided they didn't like, the candidate, Harris, just didn't have all the right things. But what that got, that's when you don't vote, that's basically a yes vote for the person you're not wanting. And so that's kind of how I go about that. And then I just talk about the experience of my kids in the district. I mean, Rain's got a good thing going on. He likes the school system. He has good peers. It's diverse. And that's our strength of OKCPS.
With that. So as we're talking about different things in legislation that's being brought, your opinion of the new rules for the Oklahoma State Department of Education with parents and students showing proof for citizenship. What are your thoughts?
Well, we've already said we're not going to, because federal law says that every child, regardless of citizenship, has a right to a public education. And we can't be forced into with a proposed rule to violate federal law, nor do we want to. It doesn't matter. I mean, I'm a lot darker than this when I tan, but my heart's still the same color. My blood's still the same color. I have the same number of bones. And all these kids do too. And it's just a ridiculous attack on kids. It's harmful rhetoric. It hurts kids. It causes more trauma, and we don't need any more ACEs in Oklahoma.
Let me ask you a question. What do we tell parents to make them feel safe about sending their kids to school, that they're not going to allow ICE agents in to take their kids?
You were down there the Saturday when they LULAC had the event where parents came from all over with their kids to be able to fill out guardianship papers and power of attorneys. And so part of it, we're having to rely heavily on that, and then for school representatives to be there so they can look us in the face and say, we're not doing that. We're not. Like the process is going to be, is that our front desk will be, administrative assistants will know like a script. Somebody shows up with a warrant. They say, let me see the warrant. I have to get it to legal. I don't know when they'll get back to me, but I can't give you anything, let you in anywhere until we know what that says. That sort of tells the whole district what's going on. There's no good way. I mean, because I was thinking about the other day that, it's 59%, correct me if I'm wrong, 58 or 59%, Mike is Hispanic. And the reason I'm getting confused is the opposite is Clinton. I just talked to a Clinton board member that in Clinton, Oklahoma. So this is a statewide issue, right?
Right.
But out of our 58 or 9%, they're not all undocumented.
Right.
But all of those kids are going to be looked at like they're undocumented.
Absolutely.
That's the bigger issue in my mind. But Oklahoma is so short-minded because talk about an economic blow to this state if we did not have our hard-working Latino population, highly educated. It'd be a blow.
Well, you're speaking my language in that.
One of the issues that schools are having today is chronic absenteeism. What do we do to curb chronic absenteeism as well as get parent involvement more involved?
What we don't do is introduce more negative interactions with police officers about the truancy law. We don't do that. Let's start with that. First of all, we don't do that. What we are doing is the Justice Circle provided a grant to Oklahoma City Public Schools, and that grant allowed us to gather up the 50 kind of highest offenders of chronic absenteeism across the high schools. And they've had 2 meetings now. The first one was basically presented to them. Ariel did it, Mike, she's about chronic absenteeism. Presented to them like, if you're absent this many days from school in your high school, you have this much less of a learning potential. If you miss this many days, your health is this over here. Showed them why we're talking about it, and then asked them why. And it was all over the board. Like, I can go to school, I don't have to go to school, and I'll still pass the test. Or, I just like to sleep. It was all over the board, right? I wasn't there for it, so I don't know all the scenarios. But then they were asked to set goals, and they did set the goals. When they brought them back the second time, out of those 50 kids, 12 had met their goals for a $25 gift card.
Oh, wow.
And that's part of what's just being through our partnerships in the community. So that's where we're really, and 50 is not enough kids, but if you take your ones that are the highest offenders of that and you figure out what their story is, then Dr. Polk and her team can change the dynamic of what does it take to get our kids to come to school. And I think parent involvement is a piece. Don't get me wrong. What I heard was when they came back the second time that the stories went from, well, my teacher's not teaching me or this or that, or the bus didn't get me to, well, I need to set my alarm or I need to tell my mom what my goal is. And so it kind of became a more internal focus, especially when they saw some peers reach goals. So, I believe in that process. I didn't create that process, but that is what we're doing, and I think it's working.
Yeah. So we're living in an environment of parent choice. We are, whether it's charter school or virtual school. So what is your opinion on our charter schools right now and where we sit with that?
Well, I'm going to ask you for, didn't we, I see something today that President Trump just signed something about school choice. It was a mandate.
Well, he said that he was
I think it happened today. I haven't had time
I haven't seen it.
I think something
I haven't seen it yet, but by the time we'll know for a fact by the time this shows.
So something happened today. I'm a parent and I make choices daily for my kids. And I moved into the district because I thought I needed arts integration for my oldest son. And every day you make a choice, whether it's I need new shoes, I'm going to go buy new shoes today. And so parents are going to have choice, and because there is choice, you can find what works for your child.
Absolutely.
And I like the saying of it where trying to provide education in a system that was created like, the 18th century, and buildings that were built in the 19th century, and jobs that are in the next century. That's what we're trying to educate kids in, and that's not going to be brick and mortar the way it always was, because education was really designed to fill factories, to fill jobs, and if we want people to be big thinkers and innovators, we got to figure out a way to do it different. Our charters are good partners. I love Superintendent Polk's kind of position on them, is that we want to learn from the ones that are doing better than us for their kids. If we're doing better than them, we want them to learn from us. But ultimately, it's competition, because that's where people choose, and we want to be first choice.
Yeah.
But private schools, people choose them for all kinds of reasons.
Competition is good.
Often the Spencer School District has often felt like that they're siloed out there by themselves. Is there anything that you can help with by shedding light on helping them make sure that they're in the fold of the rest of Oklahoma City public schools, not being left out there?
I can't believe you actually said Spencer and not 73084.
73084. That's exactly right.
I can't believe you said that.
Hey, 73084. That's exactly right.
The Spencer pattern is a unique pattern, because it originally was a rural community, but now metros have grown up around it, whether it be the Mid-Dale area or Oklahoma City. They are attached to an urban district. They meet many of the components of an urban district, but not as many as a true urban district. So they don't have the diversity mix in Spencer to make it a true urban district. It's more a monoculture in that particular way. Still has the poverty, but it's just, there's certain things that make you an urban district, but it's attached to us. So it gets kind of treated like us, at least it has in the past. And Pathway to Greatness, it took some schools, it broke them up into different grade bands, and that didn't work out very well. And now what's happening is we got a $250,000 grant from the State Department, and then we're working with Fuel, which is Brent Bushy, to try to get some more resources into it, to really try to build leadership capacity in that district, to bring wraparound services in, to really target every one of those kiddos by name and need, and to hear the community. And then we're supporting that community PTA that is out there. So instead of having a PTA just at elementary school and just a middle school and a high school, like a group of humans who really want to see the overall community come back strong. It's not going to be an easy task. I mean, it's not. It's got years of, Oklahoma City Public Schools in general has years of baggage from 1971 when we did the John Finger Plan and we forced busing and, we decimated communities, across the city, but we criminally desiccated the Black communities across our city for sure. And so it's going to take a while to build that trust. I do believe in my heart of hearts that the Northeast side, specifically Spencer, has needed a Superintendent Jamie Polk for years, so that she can walk in a room and they can see her and see them in her. And I do believe that she's a catalyst that we can see some change over there.
Absolutely. I'm cheating a little bit because I know the answer to this, but I think it's so important that people understand the kind of speaks to my opening comments when you came on, is talking about student focus. I think it's important that you describe what the board has been in the past versus the direction that the board is going in now. So if you try not to use acronyms, that's the number one thing.
Don't use them.
Try not to use acronyms, but if you could talk about the student focus plan for Oklahoma City School District, that would be great.
Yeah. Ultimately, what happens in public education, in my opinion, Oklahoma City Public Schools, and I'm one of those people, is that I went to public school, so why don't we do it the way I went to school? Y'all went to public school, I did. Well, you went to public school. So we talk about a bunch of adult issues, but we don't really ever talk about what the kids are talking about. So just the same as like chronic absenteeism. Adults can guess all day why a kid's not going to school, but you might want to ask the kid.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Adults can guess all day why Spencer patterns, not achieving, but we might want to go talk to kids. And it's the same with the district as a whole. Is we've generally we don't really, but just thought about the color of a gym floor. What color is the gym floor going to be, instead of does it matter if the gym floor is green or red to how kids learn. And so that's the concept of student outcome focused goals governance, is that ultimately 50% of our board meetings are going to talk about the outcomes of students, and not just any outcome. That's why we did the listening sessions. I heard talking the other day, 16,000 surveys came in. We haven't seen the results of them yet. But in that listening session, 16,000 people took the time
that's
to
amazing.
answer those questions, right? And so those goals are going to come out of what people said, and I said most of them. I think you said a lot of them too. And a lot of them were our kids need to know professional skills or soft skills. They need to be able to read effectively, to learn. Need to be able to do math. Show up to work on time. I mean, there were some that were kind of consistent, and then there were, I don't want you teaching my kid about the Bible. I'll take my kid where I want my kid to learn the Bible from. You don't teach them. There was that too. And so some of that would be kind of a guardrail or the values of the community. And so ultimately, when we get these 3 to 5 measurable goals, and I have no idea what they're going to be, but I'll just make one up. So, the top 10% of our kids will grow 1 year in math. Because we do know sometimes that our top 10%, that we don't focus on them as much as we focus on the middle and the lower percentage. But that, and you can do anything you want to do to get to that goal, Dr. Polk, except you can't take equity away from someone else, kind of thing. And so and then there'll be interim goals, and for 5 years, the public will be able to look at our calendar and know when we're going to get a report on a specific outcome of academics. So that's
Right. Again, I know the answers to these questions, but you got the short stick because you're actually sitting in this seat, and people need to know. That's why we call ourselves About the Facts Podcast. So we passed almost $1 billion bond. We're building schools, we're remodeling schools, adding on new pieces to most schools. Every school's being touched in some way. Why don't you tell us where we are currently with the bond and what to expect in the future as far as the bond?
So the talking points throughout the campaign of the bond was that all these big projects would come up, the transformational projects. And those are our career and readiness spaces, and they're somewhere between 18 and 24,000 square feet. I don't really know. I mean, they're all a little bit different. And the concept of those at our main high schools, with the exception of class and SAS, because they had already, when they moved, they got some change in those things, that we would be able to provide a place for our high school students to explore and be exposed to high-paying jobs, either right out of school, like you have a certificate, and it would open up a door. So say if you get your CNA, your certified nursing assistant, you might go to work there at 18, but then you're like, oh, I like what that nurse does. I'm going to go to nursing school. Oh, I like what that doctor does, or whatever the case is. Or just give you enough ability to put your hands on things, the trades, that you can come out for an internship in electrical or pipe fitting, or you can do really good on the ASVABs and go to the military service at a higher job. Or you're ready to be enrolled, either at a career tech or college. And so that's the big one. Those will come up fall of 2026, as far as we know. We've had no other reports, fall of 2026. The only one that's not scheduled to come up that's a big project is the Belle Isle High School over here by Chicken Pickle. It's that way. And that's fall of 2027. There was just more dirt work and more road work and more things. But all the Adelaide Lee is going to be a new elementary school. Same site plan, will have the same name, but it should be open fall of 2026. I think Capitol Hill High School, I haven't heard anything different than that. So I haven't heard any other, it's not going to happen by fall of 2026, except for Belle Isle High School.
So in that, would you have to partner with like industry partners to make sure those students have those jobs available?
Yeah, so that's kind of fun stuff right there. Aaron Collins is working Metro Tech's actually, instead of our kids going there, they'll bring teachers in, which is good for our students. It wouldn't matter if it was Francis Tell or Metro Tech. That's just who we partner with. Because our kids weren't using the access, because then they couldn't come back and play football or basketball or band. So they were having to choose, like, do I want to go do the career I want to do, or do I want to participate in high school?
Extracurricular,
and most kids in high school want to participate in high school.
Right.
That's the thing, So that's a big one. That's part of it. But then Alicia Suffeld, the assistant superintendent, she says all the time, we're a city of and of itself. We have cafeterias, we have mechanics, bus drivers. So why don't we give internships? So right now, they're trying to figure out how to provide internships for our kids in our own district and be able to pay them. Because what we know, especially in the John Marshall feeder pattern, what we're hearing there is kids aren't going to school because they got used to working during the pandemic and their family needs that money. And so if we could get them an internship that's paid while they're going to school, then that would help with chronic absenteeism too. Yeah, it's going to be all kinds of partners.
So we're about to wrap up. Tell everybody how to get in touch with you, your campaign.
Yeah, it's paula4okc.com, and I have Facebook presence on there, You can send in emails. You might get text from me. I've got a text that's really live me. And if it says, hey, it's really me, text me back and I'll answer you. I had text all day today. Oh, you really texted back? I do. And so you can get me at plewis@okcps.org if you actually want to talk about OKCPS, but not the campaign there. But if you have an OKCPS question, I do have that. And
you can reach Mike Shelton
Yeah.
at mshelton@okcps.org.
Yes,
as well.
Exactly, yeah. So I'm pretty easy to access. You can Facebook message me. I check my messenger pretty regularly. You might see me around town. I'm kind of all kinds of places. So yeah, that's it. I appreciate you considering voting for me on February 11th. And local elections matter. And public education is the great equalizer.
All right, so take a couple minutes and just tell people why they should vote for you.
I'm the best. I believe that I'm the best candidate because I have not just the experience, because experience only matters if there's results that are attached to it. And we have laid the foundation for the academic work that needs to happen. We did that with Pathway to Greatness when we right-sized our budget, which was a hard conversation. We've improved our transparency. We have live streaming now that you can go back and look at how we're voting on items. You can hold us accountable. We have improved transparency. There's 5 years of budgets and audits on the website at any given time. We do have the state model for mental health. We've had the longest serving superintendent since Carl Springer in the last 25 years and Dr. Sean McDaniel. And we have hired more stability with Superintendent Jamie Polk. And we have momentum. We are making progress. We have so much more work to do. But when you take, 19 F schools and you take them down to 2 in 5 years and we hired that leader, we've got progress and we have momentum and we do have a plan. She has a solid plan and the board's behind that plan, and we don't need a change of plan. And I'm not a change of plan. I'm just one there to hold the stability and the cadence and the momentum of what's going right for our kids.
Beautiful. Well, you heard it here from our OKCPS chair, current chair right now. And again, elections are February the 11th. Early voting starts February 6th.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So Thursday, next week, Sunday.
Yes.
So perfect.
Absolutely. Why don't you tell everybody how to subscribe?
Subscribe. We are on YouTube podcast and also on Spotify. We are on all of social media platforms. So follow us, share, and subscribe to our channel.
Invite friends.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
These are very important elections. Your local elections are some of the most important elections because they affect your daily lives. And so we want to make sure that everyone stays engaged so we can navigate these systems and become advocates for ourselves. So,
Paula, I want to thank you for being here.
Well, thank you guys.
Brittany,
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Brittany, you're always awesome. And just thank you for everybody for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing. And just remember, this is an amazing day.
And let's go make the most of it.